This is Webcast One Live.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to maxworldlive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome. It's 4 minutes after the hour on this 22nd day of July in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and here we are on one of the hottest day of the year so far. 94 degrees was the temperature when I came in at 1:30, and Ed Wilson was telling me it was 105 heat wave or whatever you call it.
Ed's a good old boy, and if he told you that, it's got to be right.
Well, that's what he said at noon. I don't know.
Ed's a good old boy. He used to be a cigar smoker. We used to see him at the club every once in a while.
Why doesn't he come anymore?
I haven't seen him for years. I think one time he said that he was out driving his mower and was smoking a cigar, and the daughter who had been indoctrinated in our public schools that even getting close to a piece of tobacco was deadly, came running out crying, "Daddy, you're going to die." And so he says, I've been a lot more careful about where I smoke my cigars since then.
Oh, my. All right. We have a guest here, but I'm not going to introduce him yet because I want to just ask you a question before we get into this. And, Brad, if you want to contribute, you can, but you don't have to, okay? I was absolutely shell-shocked when I woke this morning and opened my Des Moines Register, and on page 6 or 8 was the headline, and here's the headline. The headline that they had was Des Moines Public School pledges to improve achievement of young men. That was the headline.
Okay.
Des Moines actually was DMPS pledges to improve achievement to young men. Now, do you know about this program?
No, you're catching me off guard, Mac.
This program is to help young men under the age of 18 graduate from high school who are black or Latino only.
Okay.
So if a white boy is having problems getting through high school, this program isn't for him.
I see.
I said that the true headline ought to be Des Moines Public School pledges to help black and Latino males because their apathy to receive good free education is too high and makes Des Moines Public Schools look bad.
I don't know. I don't want to be insulting, but I think on a scale measurement, our Des Moines public schools are some of the worst in the state, aren't they? The fact that you're going to hold this up and act like this is going to be the thing. I mentioned Des Moines public schools only in passing, but I mean the quality of education level and the fact that if you're, it just came out the other day, that if you're in a higher socio-demographic listing, you're going to be denied the opportunity to get out. You know, it's like you're in prison and you can't transfer out. Now, if you're a poor child coming from a broken home or something, yeah, you can get out to a better school. But if you're a higher socioeconomic individual family, good luck. They've got you. The bars are locked. The key is thrown away, and you're stuck. That came out just recently.
Well, what would the reaction of the community be if the headline was Des Moines Public Schools seeks to help white young males who aren't graduating from high school? Can you imagine the outrage?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is reverse discrimination.
Probably is.
Well, anyway, I'm just amazed, and I'm getting some great comments on my Facebook page, so I'll have to go back and read them a little bit more. One friend of mine says, man acts not on reality, but his perception of reality. And when young men of color see things like this, they don't believe anymore. And he's a man of color. So anyway, I'm just telling you, I was amazed. I was just amazed. I was just amazed. I'm still trying to put a thing in there for White History Month, but nobody seems to be biting on it. So, all right, 8 minutes after the hour on this 22nd day of July, our special guest is Brad Zaun, who is a long-term legislator here in the state of Iowa, former mayor of Urbandale, former city council person of Urbandale, and formerly the 3rd congressional candidate for Congress. He won with the popular vote the nomination. But then, I don't know. I don't know how this stuff works. I've never been to a convention. I've never been to a committee meeting. I just don't know how the guy that comes in 5th comes out first.
Well, if you watch the show Survivor, that's basically what happens at a convention.
The dark horse comes from out of nowhere to win.
I'm not being disrespectful to David because he won it. He worked hard at it. He worked very hard at the convention. I would even say harder than I did as I look back at the whole scenario and what happened that day. He's a good man, and him and I have gotten together, and certainly I'm behind him 100%.
Yeah, he is a good guy.
Yep, he is a very good man, and I'm going to work for him and help him get elected.
Good.
Because the alternative is really bad for the state
Apple.
of Iowa. So, but, it just was one, I had a plan, and my wife and I mostly, there's 513 delegates. We went to about 450 delegates' houses. And that is the hardest I've ever worked at a campaign, because you have about 2 weeks to do it, and you just get a GPS out and you load these things on Google Map. I had some help in regards to doing that, and we just went from community to community. Of course, there's just a huge contingent in Central Iowa. Hit those first, and then we hit everybody for the most part. A lot of people weren't home. You get in some rural areas. Just asked them, to be. I want them to support me at the convention, which we had a lot of good luck there. And then if their favorite candidate, if I wasn't their favorite candidate, asked for the second place. What I would say that David did brilliantly, first of all, he's a super nice guy.
We had him on
last week.
Okay.
Yeah, he is a very, very nice man. And him and I got to know each other as well as the rest of the candidates. There was really no candidates in this race that I did not like. They were all great people, working very hard. A lot of people asked me, why didn't I get the win? Well, and they talk about 2010 versus 2014. Well, first of all, there was about half the turnout there was in 2014. And a lot of that was affected by those storms that came through. I know they came through Des Moines about 6:15. I've talked to the people that take care of the voting precincts, and they said once that storm hit, nobody came in. So that affected the turnout. So I just couldn't get to that 35% number. I felt good about how I did the first day, on primary day, considering there were so many really good candidates. Every one of them were very organized and very hardworking. I didn't have that in 2010. It was really kind of down to 3 of us. So I compliment David and congratulate him, and I did the day of the convention. What I was doing, it was I didn't have a strategy for the convention, and I know everybody was trying to talk to each other and try to figure out, we make a deal here or there. We did have conversations, all the candidates, before the convention, and what happened is I just wasn't going to play games, which I just felt like the good Lord will put me where I need to be. And I truly mean that. And I didn't have a strategy for the different, game, like I mentioned, like Survivor. That's exactly what it's like. What happened is I was always in first place after every vote. There was 5 votes, except for the last one, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And we gained momentum after every vote.
Now let's recount here for the audience. Brad, the first one to drop out was who?
That was Joe Grandnet.
Joe Grandnet, who he really was the outlier. I mean, you had 5 guys that were running that were all relatively close. It muddied the waters more since instead of 3, you had 5 serious candidates.
Right.
So Grandnet wasn't a serious candidate. He drops out. The next one was Robert Kramer.
Robert volunteered after that vote to step out, and then he just basically went to the stage. If you drop out based on convention rules, you do get the opportunity to get on the stage again. If you get knocked out, you don't have that opportunity. So he came in and we all had rooms behind closed doors where we could strategize. People probably think that's kind of crazy, but I had to give 6 speeches that day.
Wow.
And they've got to be different. And so what I was doing is we had the first break where we went to lunch. That was like the hour lunch. I mean, I went back into that room and tried to figure out what I'm going to say. I had an idea the day before, but you have to adjust your speeches based on what's happened.
That would be hard.
So I could not have given better speeches. I've had a lot of people say they're the best speeches you've ever given. So I gave all those speeches. What I was doing is I was going and I was prepping myself after, I was a delegate, so I was on the floor. My family was sitting in the audience area, which there was quite a few people there watching this thing. And I'd go back to my audience, go back to my family in the audience area and, or go somewhere privately, pray, come up with what my speech. Now, I'm not the type of person that reads speeches. I just have it up here and I might jot down a couple notes. So what happened is at that time when I'm preparing for my speeches, because I was a first place finisher every time, I got to speak last. So it actually gave me a little bit more time, and the luxury that I had was I could react to what everybody else's speeches were.
That's in the catbird seat then.
So anyway, I felt really good about that. But where I erred and where David really did an excellent job is between votes. He was working the delegates. Now, I did a little of that, but I really was spending time preparing for what my next speech was. And then, of course, the lunch hour, I was studying at that time as well because we didn't know how the votes were going to turn out. And he was, and I came out, and I about had half of that lunch hour, and he was out there working the tables like crazy. I wasn't doing that. So I give him credit for that. I don't know that any other candidate was doing that. The other thing is he nor myself went negative towards the end here. You ask any delegate, in fact, I was at a delegate's house out in Waukee, and she brought out a grocery sack bag of all kinds of mailers and everything that she's gotten. And there was robocalls and all that stuff going on as well. I didn't do that. I sent out two mailers, and I stayed positive. A couple of your contemporaries didn't. Monty Shaw and Schultz were two that I'd heard that had gone negative, and it cost both of them. Would you agree with that? Yes. And I would say that definitely hurt Matt, for sure. Definitely hurt him. Kramer really didn't go negative either.
No, but he did get some piling on him. I guess
we all got a little bit of piling on. I mean, there was a website that was built that was beating the heck out of me and Monty Shaw. But listen, hindsight's 20/20. I would have done it differently. But I look at it this way: it's different than 2010 for me. It was very hard in 2010. Really, mostly hard to go out into the public.
Right.
I could actually, and this is what I said to my wife the night of the convention. I says, okay, we lost. It's the way it is. God obviously doesn't want me in Washington, D.C. I've tried twice. And I said, the other thing is you got to remember, on Election Day, we won. Okay? I know I was unsuccessful in the convention, but on Election Day, we did come out as a winner.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people, of course, the whole flare up about my post on Facebook. Quite frankly, I've had a lot of people ask me to run as an independent. I was never going to run as an independent.
Mac and I talked.
was never going to switch from the Republican Party.
Mac and
I was a little
talked that
frustrated with my post. And maybe it was a little bit of an honoriness. It definitely was provocative. And that's what my point was to be. And so what happened is that, of course, it's a slow news day, and everybody's texting me and calling me, and the press is just driving me nuts, thinking I'm going to run. They're speculating that I'm going to run for an independent. I would never do that.
I did. We talked, and the day it came out, we didn't think that you would. The thing I think you made a mistake on was not making yourself visible very quickly to tamp down the speculation and to tell people, this is not my intent. I'm not going to run as an independent. I know you were out of touch, but you should have gotten in touch with somebody in the media and said, this is the fact, and because otherwise it went on for days and there was a lot of speculation.
And, hindsight 2020 being that, my family comes first. I was out of town with my family over the July the 4th holiday, and secondly, I was at college orientation. When I got back, immediately I took care of it.
Brad Zaun is our guest today as we talk about what happened in that third congressional convention, and pretty soon we're going to talk about what comes next and how he moves forward and what is God's plan for his life. Tom Coates is my co-host. Ryan's producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. And if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Here on KTIA, Iowa.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom. Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, what's wrong? Logan wants Let's Rock Elmo for his birthday, but since Steve lost his job, I don't think we can afford it. What did you do for money last year when you and John were struggling to make ends meet?
My secret? I went to Me and Mommy to Be. We sold all of Megan and Ryan's clothes and toys there. They give back the highest percentage on their items in the area, and it was so easy.
Megan's clothes? She's 15.
Yes, they can sign newborn through trendy teens. We're not struggling now, but I'm going to keep saving and making money at Me and Mommy to Be.
21 minutes after the hour on this 22nd day of July in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Tom Coates in the house today for this special edition of Mac's World. Ryan producing. Our special guest is legislator Brad Zaun, former 3rd Congressional District competitor for the congressional seat. Second time Brad's taken a run at the Congress, and second time it hasn't been God's will for his life. Now, you said you wanted to
we need to
add a couple things real quick.
Some of this up on the convention before we move on. Now, Brad, you took us up to a certain point. Grand Annette dropped out, never served candidate. Kramer was stiff on the stump, my observation. I've known Robert for some time. He also was aligned with the Iowa Family Policy Center, or now the family leader, Bob Vanderplatz. That would have been somewhat problematic. There's some baggage there. Then you got Matt Schultz, who, as we talked about, had gone negative and had been savaged by the Register, not only for his fight against illegal voting, which I supported, but also some other issues with some staff members that were still on payroll and not working, and some things. And I like Matt. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a bright young man. I think he'll make a fine candidate at some point, whenever God's will is. I like Matt. But he had some baggage. We also had Monty Shaw, who Monty had a strategy to kind of stand aside from the rest of you guys, be a little bit more moderate, and to take the kind of the John McCain position to let the rest of you beat each other up and then kind of step in. It was a decent strategy. It seemed like during that convention, to a while, it was almost like anybody but Shaw. There seemed to be some of that. Can you take us through the rest of the convention and tell us how it concluded?
Well, everybody's loyal because you get all their volunteers. I mean, you got to remember, the people that are 513 people that go to that convention, they are very well educated. I would say they're an educated voter. They understand. They really do the research on the candidates. They're the ones that are probably the biggest contributors to their individual counties. So they're great people. Everybody kind of had their favorites. There was a lot of people that were running. We had ours, and of course, all of us had people that were supporting us. And that's when it really, when people get knocked off, after Robert decided not to run, and he's a super great guy.
Absolutely.
And once he dropped out, then of course Schultz was the next guy to get knocked out, and then of course Schultz came in and endorsed David Young, which knocked out Monty Shaw, and of course it ended up being him and I. So that's kind of, I don't know that there's really anything inside ballpark gossipy things I can tell you. It really was what people saw. It definitely would have been an interesting day as a spectator. It wasn't that much fun as a candidate, but it would have been an interesting day as a spectator. But you know what really ultimately hurt me is when Matt got up and said, "I want all my people to go towards David Young," and that was just that was a crowning blow for me. And really, I was quite surprised because when I gave my speech, and I really fired people up when I was giving my speeches. I don't know if there's any video on this out there, but I really fired up. When I actually got off, I said to my wife, when Matt did endorse David, I says, "I'm probably done." But then once I got up on the stage, it seems like the crowd really was, interested in what I had to say. Got off the stage, and I thought, maybe, slightly maybe. Well, then, of course, when the Polk County vote came out, I was done.
there a concern at that point, Brad, on the part of Schultz that perhaps much of his support was more in the rural area and that might gravitate over to Shaw, who apparently some people felt like would be most appealing, a little bit more moderate, and be more appealing on the general election, and that was to try to perhaps offset the pickup that he might have gotten? Do you think that might be part of it?
You'd have to ask Matt that. Let me tell you what. In 2010, my goal was to win 3 counties: Polk, Jasper, and Marion County. That's where all the population was. I didn't have a chance to spend a lot of time in the other rural areas. Same thing happened this time. I'm in the Iowa Senate. I didn't miss votes. My concentration is I had to be. My goal was win Polk, Dallas, Warren, and Potawatomi. I got beat bad in Potawatomi County. And again, I didn't have time to campaign and all. Everybody else they have time to campaign in all these counties. But with that said, is when I ran against Leonard Boswell in 2010, I won 12 out of 13 counties. So really your strategy, I wouldn't think that strategy would be a good strategy if that's what you're implying about Matt, because I've always done well in the rural areas just because of kind of my background. And then once I'm done out of the Senate, I could spend a lot of time, and I would have done that as well. But, like I said, what I did sell, the last point I sold, is that I'm the only candidate up there, or got down to the last couple candidates, that has been fully vetted. Listen, and I told David when I met with him, I said, you better be ready, because come 1st August, that's when all these negative ads are going to be an onslaught, and they will dig up any little detail that they can find out about you.
Absolutely, and they had a dossier on you all ready to go. They had one on Matt. I think the one that they're least able to get a hold of is David Young, and let's come around to that now, because we talked in the earlier segment. There was speculation when you had a frustrated post out there that you were going to run as an independent. It festered for a few days, and then finally you went on Simon Conway's show and tried to put that to bed. Right. Can you put it to bed for our listeners on why you would never consider doing that and why your support is fully behind David Young right now? First
of all, I consider David a friend. I heard what he said. at the least dozen debates that we had. He's the kind of candidate that I could get behind. He won fair and square at the convention. He played by the rules, even though I don't like conventions. And there was no deals made between him and I or anything like that. I just look at the alternative. I did serve with the Democratic nominee, and I know what she's all about. And she will be bad for the state of Iowa. And it's not personal. I just saw what she did with her voting record and some of the things that she advocated for. David and I, reason why I'm doing it is because it's the right thing to do. Why did I put the post out? Like I said before, maybe a little honoring us, a little provocative, but I meant what I said about the Republicans. Republicans have lost their way. I talked to at least 1,000 people after I posted that, email, phone calls, whatever, that said, yay, Brad, because there's so many people that are frustrated with the two-party system, and both parties at times are terrible. Democrats are always terrible, okay? But the Republicans spend too much, and they don't stick to their values and act like Republicans. I am a Republican for what they stand for. I've always been independent at the state capitol, and I will always continue to do that.
Mac and I agree, and in fact, when you called me that one day, I said, I'm going to support you. I'm not going to publicly do it. I did vote for you. I've known you for years. And the thing that I most admire, and I told people when the subject came up, is that you have been willing to stand up to special interest. Now, they say, well, he can't raise any money. Well, I said, part of the reason he can't raise as much money as some of the rest of them is because he has been strong-willed against some of those special interests. Now, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
I can tell you exactly.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm a state legislator. I cannot raise any PAC money, even if it's a PAC I like, 30 days before the session or 30 days after the session. So my hands were tied if I wanted to take PAC money, which there are certain PACs that I would have taken their money. You look at all the candidates and all their fundraising, and I'm talking about all of them with the exception of maybe Mr. Grandinet. There was so much PAC money that was put in those. I was proud that I raised, I think, around $120,000. It was from the average, ordinary Iowans sending in $25, $50. It wasn't all these tons of MAC checks, Max checks. I did have some Max contributors.
Now, your name is synonymous
he's
with...
saying MAX as in maximum.
Max. Okay. But anyway, so, I listen, I could have, but I was a state senator and running a business at the same time. My hands, I take that job. The people of Urbandale, Johnston, and Grimes sent me down there to do a job, and that's what I did.
But there was that concern, and I heard it from some corners. Well, he can't raise money. He can't raise money. And I had to say that part of it is because he's upset some of the big-moneyed special interest in this state that he has stood up to, and that's why I like him, because he has been strong-willed. There are not a lot of guys that will go into some of the situations without talking about specifics, but stand up to some of those special interests with their influence and their money.
And I have. I'm not an establishment candidate. I never have. But I will tell you, if I would have gotten the nomination at convention that day, I would have been raised. I even talked to David. It's easy to raise money once you're the nominee.
Exactly. And is he going to quickly catch up? Stacey Apple had more money because she hadn't had to spend any. Will he quickly catch up to her?
Yes. Yes, he will.
Yeah.
I would say this is an incredibly important seat for the Republicans.
The Republicans cannot afford to lose this seat. This is probably, I know at one time it was like the 12th biggest seat in contention in the United States. There is going to be, well, I've been told projections are $12 to $14 million are going to be spent on this seat with outside money.
So the Democrats think it's an equally important
They think
seat.
they can pick it up. They are not going to, I tell you what, David will work hard, and I believe he's going to keep that seat.
Do you think Grassley will come back and actively
Absolutely. I think that he always was kind of involved quietly to help him raise money. David's never had a problem raising money. I mean, he's got a lot of connections, and like I said, a lot of people like him. And I, for one, can tell you, no matter what happened in that convention, I always liked David Young. Yeah. He's a super, super great guy. There was a couple times, you want to talk about some behind-the-scenes stuff. Him and I prayed together at a couple different debates. I can remember exactly Red Oak and Council Bluffs. Right before our debates, here we were running against each other. He's a wonderful man.
He does seem to be a sincere Christian. I will tell you that at some point I met with and talked to all your contemporaries. And David called me up, wanted to meet. I was going down to the cigar club on a Friday. I said, well, I'm going down there. Meet me down there. We went down there, had a cigar together, talked for an hour, and I was very favorably impressed with him.
Yeah.
I didn't come out and support anybody, but I was glad to get to know him, and he seemed like a very sincere Christian man, bright guy. He is being extra cautious right now because I don't think he wants to give the Democrats any sound bites that they can run with on an attack.
Well, let me tell you my advice to him when I had coffee with him. Is we Republicans play really nice, okay? The first time around when I ran, the Democratic Party has a tracker that follows you to every event and tape records every move. Even if I have a conversation with an individual, I got tired of it. But of course, I couldn't push them away or anything like that. When Republicans, which they don't, which the Republican Party needs to provide that same service, I said, what you need to do is when that tracker comes in, you have the hostess or wherever the business is, the business owner, throw them out. I never did that last time because you gotta play, on an equal field with what the Democrats do. The other thing that's going to happen is my prediction is a Democratic nominee will not be seen. She will not be doing public things. She will be doing just exactly what Leonard Boswell did. Rely on all the negative ads that are going to hit. To all your listeners, don't believe anything that comes out of those ads. And the second thing about it is she will just be at parades, probably lurched from a truck, waving to people. And that's exactly what Leonard Boswell. That's how they operate. We do things differently, and I know David is going to be working his tail end off.
I think Bruce Braley was sorry that he actually walked a parade on the 4th of July, isn't he?
Yeah, that's kind of what I heard. But anyway, and I'm a big supporter of Joni Ernst as well, and I want to plan on helping her as well.
All right, Brad Zaun is our guest today on this 22nd day of July on Max World here on 99.3 KTIA. Tom Coates co-hosting, and, of course, Ryan producing. When we come back, what's next? Brad said it's obvious, and I'm not trying to quote you, but it's obvious you tried twice to go to Congress. God must not want you in Congress. I don't know if I agree with that, but we'll talk about that when we come back. Live here on Max World on KTIA, Iowa.
This is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's gotta be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? You can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. "22 minutes before the top of the hour on this 22nd day of July in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy in the midst of the hottest days we've had in Iowa for this calendar year. Probably shouldn't complain much. We had a beautiful June. The crops are good. Everything seems to be good. It's just uncomfortable when it's 93 degrees and the wind, no, not the wind chill. The heat index is 100.
Well, now we've had such good weather, Mac, with the rains from maybe El Nino to some degree busting the drought and through the Midwest, that the prices, I don't know if anybody's been watching this, but the price of corn and beans have been dropping down precipitously.
Really?
And you can expect that with big supply. We've had questionable supply the last few years with the drought. That's gone. We're going to have some big crops this year, and the prices are going to reflect that.
Well, I hope the farmers do well in the long run because we're an agricultural state.
Yes, we are.
All right, Brad. You know, I've known you a long time.
Oh, yes.
And I've never seen anybody serve their communities, Urbandale and then the state, with such honesty and integrity. And you know I mean that.
Well,
you know,
you're being way too nice to me.
No, you're the real deal, you know. And here's my first question to you. Aren't you tired of it? Aren't you done with it yet?
Well, there's definitely days, and for sure, after the convention, I had definitely a lot of thoughts in regards to that. You know, I just love, I don't know, when I had my hardware store, you know what you did? You serviced people. You were a problem solver. You tried to fix people. I'm in the minority in the Iowa Senate. It sure would be great to be in the majority, but I will tell you, in the minority, what I get to do, and this is what most elected officials forget, the most rewarding part of being an elected official is people, when they have problems, are overwhelmed at where to start in government. The beauty of that I get to do is help people out, connect them, maybe have a little bit of influence to get things sped up a little faster. I did it when I was mayor, city council, state senator, and I do enjoy doing that. But, you know, I'm certain that, you know, God is going to send me a message and say, hey, you're done. You don't need to be doing this anymore. Right now, I'm keeping my options open. There's a rumor out there saying that I'm not going to run again. And right now, I am keeping my options open. But I would be honest with you, thinking that, you know, there's going to be a day coming up soon that I'm going to probably want to do something different. I've talked to a lot of ex-senators, representatives, people that were in public service for many years, and they have one big smile on their face after they get done.
Yeah.
I do get into trouble from time to time, and I don't deserve what you said about the honesty thing. I thank you for that compliment. I just tell it the way it is. It's the way I was raised, and I know from time to time I step on toes. But the beauty with me, you're always going to know where you stand, and certainly never have, and I talked about this during the campaign trail, never have made a decision based on re-election or election, and I will not do that. And I think we need more people that'll get in there and do the work and not make decisions based on some of the things you talked about earlier, Tom, about some potential contributors you might step on their toes. I don't care.
Well, you know, I am the last person to say that I'm qualified to understand what God's will is for my life or anybody else's. But you said something that I want to tell you I think you're wrong on, or at least don't close the door. You said God doesn't want you in Washington. God didn't want you in Washington in 2014. He didn't want you in Washington in 08, 10? 10.
Yeah.
Okay. There's going to be a time and a place, and when we look back, and wherever he does put you, we'll look back and say, wow, that wouldn't have happened if he had won in 14. Yeah. That wouldn't have happened if he had won in 8. I don't think if you had won in, not 8, 10, excuse me. If you had won in 10, I don't think you'd have the incredible relationship that you have with your bride.
Absolutely.
Because your focus would have been poof.
gone to Washington. And I don't think your son, who is getting ready to play for the University of Iowa this fall, I don't think you and he'd have the relationship that you have because you wouldn't have been around for his last 3 or 4 years.
I would have. You know what? I agree with everything you said. I do have a son that's going to be starting at the University of Iowa. Obviously, I have another son that's going to be a senior at the University of Iowa that does play football. And I will be able to attend all those games. But I'll be honest with you, I was going to go to them anyway, even if I was a United States congressman. But, you know.
You say you would have, but we don't know.
No, I told my campaign I was.
Okay,
I told them, hey, I don't care if I get elected. Even through the campaign season, I was going to make all those games. But here, listen, no doubt about it. One thing I would say is my wife is incredible. We have the strongest relationship, best friend, incredible. Rock, she is my foundation, and there's no doubt that I have a son with her being home, and I have a son that's going to be a junior in high school. It was a blessing in disguise, probably. And so, you know, I agree with everything you said in regards to what I might do in the future. I'll keep my options open and kind of just let nature take its course.
When does your current seat in the legislature?
I'm up in 2 years. So I'm in the middle of my term.
You'd be running then in 16. You'd be running presidential year.
Yep. I'm always with the president.
Which changes the way those elections are run.
Turnout's huge. You got to work hard in presidential years.
What if you were the and tell me what district you're in?
20.
20. What if you were just the 20 district guy for the next 10 years? What if you were the guy that represented us at home here in the state of Iowa and just kept the wolves at bay?
You know, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Well, Matt, let me ask you this, Brad. You touched on something earlier. Right now, you're in the minority in the Iowa Senate, and you're very frustrated because Gronstal has prevented much good legislation from moving forward. What if this term, this off-year election, where typically the Democrats tend to stay home, the Republicans vote in the winds at their backs, and we've got a very unpopular Barack Obama regime running roughshod in Washington, and people are turned off. What if we can take this tide, push through to gain a majority of the Iowa Senate this time, and you find yourself not a minority senator, but a majority senator, where now you can get some things done, notably in tax reform and some other things that can make some significant differences in the lives of Iowans? Won't you feel invigorated and rejuvenated with that scenario in front of you?
Well, you know, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Yes, obviously that would have some impact on my decision. But really, if I'm meant to be there and be a servant to the people of Urbandale, Johnston, and Grimes, or I shouldn't say a servant, but a public servant of those people, I think that
the Bible would call you a slave.
Yeah, well,
I'm just saying, to the Bible, you're a slave.
Well, I just have to wait and see what happens.
Okay, but that's one scenario. Another scenario would be, I assume, and what happens when you assume, but I'm assuming that David will be able, in final analysis, to beat a very left-leaning Stacey Apple in the election. But let's flip the other way. Let's say she pulls off some dirty tactics like Boswell did with you, buries him in some attack ads at the last minute he can't properly answer, and she becomes the sitting congressman. And in 2 years, every 2 years, the House seats are up. Then when your Senate seat is up, you very likely would be the leading potential candidate to take her out of there. What about that potential scenario?
I'd say right now, no. But I've just kind of, I obviously just got through an election.
Oh, did you hear that? Hold on. Did you hear that? That's your wife yelling, I agree, no, I agree, no,
You're right.
I agree, no.
There's a lot of different scenarios that could happen, and I'm just going to take them when the
comes for us. Chris Branstad said 4 years ago no, too, and we saw how that flew with
my
Terry.
wife's very supportive of me this time, very supportive of any public service that I've done, and I'm going to focus on being a good, the best state senator I can. I can tell you, my focus is going to be school reform. The next couple of years.
All right. Again, you get school reform done if you're in the majority. How do you handicap the possibility Republicans can take back the Iowa Senate?
I think they have a very good shot.
Really?
Based on the seats that are up, the candidates that we recruited. Now, you need to probably talk to Bill Dix because he knows that more because I was in the middle of campaigning. But based on what I've been exposed to, I think they have a very, very good chance of getting into the into the majority.
Branstad's got $4 million of war chest. Hatch has got vapors, and he's not going to get any money because people don't expect him to win. Will Branstad be able to not only extend his time, but also some of his resources down the line to help that?
That would be awesome. I would hope that he would.
All right, when we come back, we'll have about 8 minutes. Let's bring our focus back to Iowa, and let's talk about some of the big issues that are facing Iowans right now. Right now, there is a farmers gathering, a convention or whatever you might call it, the largest in the state. And you know what the big buzz among the farmers is? What crop they want to grow next and make Iowa number one? We'll talk about that when we come back.
Get away from my Sumito credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
See them here, see them there. You got bad credit, we don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
All right, 10 before the top 22nd day of July. Let's get into it here. I wish the microphones would have been on. There wasn't anything said that you shouldn't have heard, but there's some passion in this room when it comes to the marijuana issue. First of all, did we do right as a state to allow the oil to be used in medical situations?
Yes, I voted for it.
All right. Tom?
Oh, of course. I mean, once you understood the complexities of this issue and what he's saying, the oil, which you cannot get high on, should be made available to the people with some serious medical issues. It's a small number, but they're important if they're hitting into your household.
All
and
right.
so, absolutely, it was a courageous vote. Expedients might have said no because he was on the campaign trail, but again, he did the right thing. He voted yes for that. Now, your position,
I'm going to take the
Tonto,
devil's
is
advocate.
that you're saying that you're going to take the devil's advocate position. Where is that?
The devil's advocate position is we're watching just 600 miles to our west, 700 miles. What happens when a conservative state like Colorado approves the use of marijuana for personal use?
Back up. I think the characterization of Colorado as a conservative state is a misnomer.
Okay. Hundreds of millions of dollars have come into that state because of the sale of this.
Uh-huh.
There has been no negligible negative going on over there. Now, remember...
No, I take issue with that, too. How can you lay that out as a fact? Go ahead.
I'm an alcoholic.
Yes.
I've been sober for 1,539 days.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And there is a part of me that wants to wipe alcohol off the map. What it's done to me, what it's done to my family, what it does to some of the people that I've fallen in love with over the last 4 years, the lives I've seen it destroyed. I want to wipe it off the map. But that's not fair to Tom, who wants to have a cigar and you're a Scotch guy, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's not fair to him. See, because when I have 3 drinks and Tom has 3 drinks. Tom has 3 drinks, and there's a common sense bell that goes off in his head that goes, whoa, I've had enough. I'm not going to function correctly. I have 3 drinks, and my bell goes, slam it, floor it, bring me 9 more, please. So what about the guy who wants to smoke a little weed, because that's how he wants to relax, and he doesn't want to take Zoloft, and he doesn't want to drink alcohol, because alcohol and marijuana do not at all have the same experience when you use it, okay? You'll very rarely find anybody high on marijuana that is driving 100 miles an hour down the road or beating up his girlfriend. It's just, that's not, Tom, that's true. So we've got an agricultural state. We've got a country that is going to, more and more and more, you're going to see the legalization of marijuana. They can't grow marijuana in New Mexico. We can grow it in Iowa. What happens if we all of a sudden become what tobacco is to Tennessee, Iowa becomes for marijuana? And we've got hundreds of millions of dollars coming into our coffers, Brad, to improve the education that you want to improve so much.
Improve education.
Boy, that
education doesn't need any more money.
Well, that sounds like the argument that they have given for gambling expansion, because they say, well, let's do it for the kids in the schools. And California went in with some gambling bills, and what they did was they backed out. They didn't increase the money to the education. They backed it out to make room for other boondoggle programs. Brad, you said it off air. You said this Max trumpeting the benefits of the dollars. No eye toward the social costs. No eye toward some of the other damaging aspects of broadening the use. Because you legalize this, you make it available, you're going to greatly expand the increase. Just as I said on gambling, you've said on gambling. You put a casino in my backyard, and you're going to greatly expand the accessibility and the numbers of, we tripled the numbers of problem and pathological gamblers. You will do this to some degree with marijuana. I say, well, it's not addictive. Well, they came out with the most comprehensive study on brain functions this year, in 2014, they released them. And they demonstrated that even regular but minor usage of marijuana significantly shifts the size of the brain.
I don't believe that. I'm
Believe
sorry,
it or not,
Tom, I don't
I'm
believe
telling
it.
you that schizophrenia, they showed in the study, this schizophrenia, which one of the most difficult areas of mental disorders to deal with, is significantly expanded with even moderate usage of marijuana. Now, you're going to put that on top of all the other social maladies we got, and you're going to greatly expand something that shifts the physical aspects of a brain and makes you more likely to be a schizophrenic?
All right, let's say you're completely right.
Well, I'm just quoting a very expanded, comprehensive study that was done this year.
Let's say you're completely right. I want you and I to go back 10 years, sitting on the radio at 98. And the whole concept that gay marriage was going to come to Iowa was about as funny as a hovercraft parked outside of the principal building. No way we're going to get gay marriage. I remember, you remember, I remember. One of the first time we ever talked on the radio, I remember we talked about that in 2004.
Yeah.
There's no way Iowa will, maybe we'll get some progressive
well, we still
state
wouldn't
like
have voted
Minnesota.
it in.
But
we had to have activist judges to get that for us.
But it happened.
It happened, and I see
it's
the
not
trend
going
line.
away.
Well, I can see the deviancy and the decadence and the progressive nature of this thing. Gambling is a manifestation of that. The expansion of drug usage is another manifestation of that. The expansion of deviant marriage is another manifestation of that. I'm not saying any of that isn't coming. I am saying to acquiesce to it is a sin, Mac. That's what I'm saying.
Brad, how would you vote for the legalization of marijuana in the state of Iowa if $100 million would be put into the coffers?
I'd vote no.
$1 billion.
I don't make decisions based on financial
adding
to our coffers, because I think government has enough money to spend. I know that there's going to be conversations about the expansion of what we just voted on this last year for people that come back, veterans come back, and then there's other medical uses for marijuana. I would keep an open mind to that. I don't believe that I've talked to younger people that tell me that it's easier to buy a bag of pot than it is to buy a 12-pack of beer.
Mm-hmm.
I think we probably have to recognize that this is going on. I do not think that would be good for the state of Iowa. Now, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, Mac. I think there's other,
I'm not. I'm just being the
Be as disrespectful to this guy as you want to be, Brad. Go ahead.
There is other things we could do in the state of Iowa to expand our economy without legalizing marijuana. And like I said, I did vote for that bill. And I do know that there's some medical benefits to that. And I would be open to the conversation, but I would not support that. I would not support anything that would be coming on the horizon that we would do it for additional revenue.
Okay. All right, Brad Zaun, I appreciate you being here. I'm sorry you went through that. I love you, man.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
I know that convention was.
Oh, no.
That was no fun.
Everything's fine. It was really hard to get over that, but I'm fine now.
Well,
Good.
I'm glad you're fine too. And you're really a powerhouse on Twitter. Would you tweet out that Tom Coates wears Garanimals underwear? And let's just see what the press does with that.
Actually, I'm not a powerhouse on Twitter. I always had campaign people do that. I am a powerhouse on Facebook.
All right, Tom, we'll see you next week. Ryan, thanks for producing. Until you and I talk again, do me a favor. Pick that person you don't like very well, that person you hold a resentment against, that person that just irks you when you look at them. And today, on your knees in front of your Lord and your Savior, forgive them.